My world kind of revolves around harvesting and food. And, I very much look at the year as the seasons of harvest and also the seasons of eating and sharing food with friends and family. But ultimately what it offers is just, you know, it's how I procure my food. And I fish throughout the spring and summer months. I hunt through the fall. In the spring, we're harvesting mushrooms, and throughout the fall, we're harvesting mushrooms, and then through the winter, as much as anything, we're processing a lot of food. We're making jerky or sausages or smoking salmon and doing all the things that we don't have quite time for during the harvest season, and just and throughout all that, we're just having amazing meals and sharing them with all of our friends and family, and it really makes for a way of life when you put it all together, because there's not a lot of room for a lot of other stuff when you dedicate this much time to getting out there and harvesting. And I'm grateful that that's the thing that I kind of got fired up on in this life, and I enjoy it, and I'm able to share it, which is a lot of fun. Just a couple months back, we hosted like an online workshop on just my connection to hunting, and also talk a little bit about what it takes to get started in hunting, particularly if you don't necessarily have a current connection, or you want to reconnect to hunting as a way of life. It was amazing because it was a hot summer day. It was one of the first summer days that we had, and there was, I think, 60 people on the call. I couldn't believe it. I mean, for one, I didn't, it was great to see that much community. It was great to see how much interest. And then the response throughout that call was really powerful, because a lot of folks reached out to me after saying, "Hey, that was really inspiring. That was, I've lost connection to this, and I want to reconnect." And to me, that fills me up, because I just know how incredibly powerful the connection to land and through food, how powerful that is, and how it just it makes me who I am. And that's where I draw my both my nourishment and physical health, but my mental health is all nourished by the land and through the practice of harvest, and those connections that you make to nature and the animals. Like it's really what makes me a healthy person. And to have a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, they get that part. They get the connection between how nature is nourishing, and that we need to be more connected to nature, and connecting to nature through your food is really where, that's what we're striving for. So that was really cool. So I'm excited to find a way to, continue to support and have these conversations with folks like you and others, and draw a path for folks as to how they can be part of the Eat Well program, or how I can contribute to the Métis community to basically offer some support and help folks reduce some barriers to learn to hunt and to gather and ultimately harvest. And yeah, lots of fun. If you want to learn to hunt here in British Columbia, you need to have what's called you have to get your hunting license, and then you get that through taking what's called the core classes, the Conservation Outdoor Recreation Education Program. It's basically the hunter safety and certification course here in British Columbia. For ease, most people call it the core class, and it's available in just about any you can sign up for a course in pretty much any community. You can also do the course online, which is we host an online course, which we're really proud of, because we took a lot of time to record and bring in a bunch of great mentors to talk about their experiences with hunting, and that's a good place to start. So if you can get into a class, join a classroom. If you live in a remote place, get onto an online course and take the time to learn that programming, and that'll give you the foundational pieces of what hunting's about. It'll also set you up to be able to eventually get your hunting license, and then to be able to buy the tags that you would need to then pursue the different species here in BC. So that's step one, and that I think is a pretty straightforward step. The challenge with that is that it really is. I mean, you can sit in your living room for 16 hours, and after it, you get your license that says you can go hunt. But for most of us, it's that real life tangible mentorship that really helps us get through the barriers. And there's a number of barriers to actually getting out there, some of which might be, how do I, you know like how do I wander around the woods and not get lost? I mean, most folks have a healthy fear of getting lost in the woods, which is justified. And as a park ranger, throughout my career, I've always, you always tell people, hey, stay on the trails, don't wander off the trails, make sure you leave a trip planned, like all these things that kind of almost like tell people that you shouldn't wander off and look for, and explore, because we don't want to have to come find you later. But as a hunter, you really do want to go wander around. You really do want to go find where the animals are. You want to find low pressure areas where animals don't have a lot of interactions with other humans or hunters for that matter. And then you want to try and, that's your best chance of observing wildlife. So I would encourage you to wander around the woods and explore. But with that, you need to have orienteering skills. You need to have comfort using the different navigation apps that are available to make sure you can go and have a hunt or go harvest, and then still safely get back to the truck or camp at the end of the day. So that's a big piece of one of the barriers. So I think that's one barrier. Another barrier is just like, if you were to shoot an animal, gosh, what do you do once it's laying there dead in front of you? How do you number one, treat it with total respect, so that you're, what would be the process from when you walk up to that animal, how to deal with all the complex emotions, and how to deal with, making sure that the meat is taken care of and everything's, kept cool and clean, and then transported back to your home or to a butcher. That's a huge process, and there's lots of knowledge to share there. And there's a lot of perceived barriers to what that could be. And there's a lot of things that, once you've done it once, you're like, oh, that's no big deal. Like, and being able to get people to that place where it's like, hey, that's no big deal. I can do this. And whether it's supporting people to do, the butchering project, or supporting people to wander around the woods and use these navigation tools to find their way back to the truck. Like, you really want people to be like, I thought that was going to be hard, but now that I got this little bit of knowledge, I can do this, and I feel more comfortable, and I can build on my knowledge. And that's the goal of Eat Wild. Like, so we've got a series of, workshops and courses that take people through what I call the hunting journey, to, support people along the way, and, to deal with those barriers that are in the way. And also there's the licensing requirements, which I, spoke to at the beginning, which is, the hunting license. And of course, if you're going to be a firearms owner and you're going to hunt with a firearm, you would have to take your Canadian, there's what we call the PAL course, but it's a Canadian firearm safety course, which is another day in class. There's only in class options, and you would join us for a day, and at the end of that, you would get your certification to then go apply for to basically own and possess to purchase and possess firearms and ammunition, and then obviously use that safely for the purpose of hunting. So those are some of the things you have to deal with. The two pieces, just to sort of summarize: you got to get your hunting license. That's the core program. You got to get your PAL, which is a possession acquisition license, to purchase and own and possess firearms, and that's the Canadian Firearm Safety Course. And both of those you can register for, with us obviously, but there's courses throughout BC. And then the next step of that is how do you build on your skills? And we offer, we do a 3-day how to hunt workshop, which we, bring people to a beautiful ranch in the interior near the Okanagan, and we take them through, all of those barriers that I was talking about, like, whether you want to, to build that confidence around orienteering and navigation, to do the field butchering. We talk a lot about how to track game and how to identify good habitat. We talk to folks about how to pick a good spot to go hunting. So a lot of the things you're going to come up against as you get into the journey, like those questions that you're going to have, we're trying to figure out ways to build programming to support people to navigate those barriers. So those are probably the foundational pieces that we offer. Probably the one thing that I think, and this was really cool about the Métis community, is the thing that people ask me most about is like, how do I find mentors? So that said, like, the hardest part about hunting is finding mentors that, can support you in your journey and to give you some tips and tricks as you're building your skills and confidence, but also to sort of set you up with knowledge about where to go and when to go, and maybe even who to go with if they welcome you on a hunt. And certainly that's when you're really going to become a successful hunter, is when someone takes you hunting and shows you how they have success and shares that knowledge with you. And if you ever get an invitation to go hunt with someone, never turn it down, because you're going to learn something every time. And so what I think is really cool about, if you're part of the Métis community, like, hunting is obviously, the foundation of, Métis people. And for those folks who have maintained that connection, will have that knowledge. And there's also there's a spirit of generosity within the Métis community and knowledge sharing as well. So once you put yourself out there as a Métis hunter, you're going to find other Métis mentors that will welcome you to and share knowledge, and go to the range with you and shoot with you, so you learned how to shoot. Or if you're lucky, we invite you to a duck hunt, or maybe out into a deer hunt. And if you get those opportunities, like, definitely take them, and take every opportunity to build the relationship too. Like, that's, to me, like, I think the biggest piece is like finding that mentorship and that support. Because I mean, gosh, does it ever put you? It's like fast forward, learning, when you find the right person that meets you where you're at in terms of your knowledge and your learning. So yeah. That's a good question. And I think that, like, I think it's about community, right? Like, everything, like, like, we were just, before we got on the air here, sort of, you were telling me about the gardening program that the Métis community has been supporting for some time. And there's, these reducing barriers to basically growing your own food. And like, and that's done through this community of Métis people that are, creating access to that. That, to me, is probably the strength of the Métis community, is that we can do those things. We can build these supports for folks that want to enter this world. And we can support people in building relationships and building knowledge. And that that's the way forward for me. So I mean, that's sort of what we've done with Eat Wild, is just try to build community to make hunting more accessible. And I think that the Métis community has that option, and is doing that. And that's a great way of maintaining connection to culture, but also building real strong bonds within community. Because once you hunt together, or fish together, or harvest together, and then once you eat together, then, like, your community. So, and those are the things that I think really make, for a sustainable, resilient community of people, if you're staying connected and have some purpose around what food means to you, and harvest means to you. Then that, to me, is that the long-term view of how I think of resiliency and yeah, success.